Greetings, Midcoast Ukers. Jeff Weinberger coming at you here with a new tutorial. Today I'd like to talk about less common chords. There are the chords in certain keys that we play in all the time with ukulele keys. There are basically 5 ukulele keys. A lot of the songs that we do in Midcoast Ukes are in the key of C. They might be in the key of G, occasionally D, and occasionally A, and then very often F. And so those 5 keys, C, G, D, A, and F, are the 5 keys you really need to know the chords in, since most ukulele music is played in those keys. And there are some common chords, like in the key of C. Obviously C is very common, F is very common, G or G7, A minor, certain chords you do over and over. But then there's those chords you probably don't practice that much, and when they come up you scratch your head. You say, oh, B diminished, which, by the way, that was the chord I was playing around with in that intro there. I just improvised that, but we're going to learn that chord, B diminished, and a few others that are common in the 5 ukulele keys of C, G, D, A, and F. So from the key of C, we have the 1 chord C, the 2 chord D minor, the 3 chord E minor. You're probably okay with those 3 so far. The 4 chord F, the 5 chord G, you're probably still okay, or G7 if you want. And then A minor, you're probably okay with those first 6 chords, but then you get to the 7th chord of the key, B diminished, and maybe you're stuck there. So let's look at a B diminished chord. Really, what we play as B diminished on the ukulele is, in fact, a B diminished 7th chord. But we're not going to get into the theory of all of that today. But it's just easier to play this particular voicing rather than a true diminished triad. So don't worry if all that theory talk leaves you in the dust. We're just going to learn the chord. And it goes like this. It's 1, 2, 1, 2. First finger on the 1st fret G string. 3rd finger on the 2nd fret C string. 2nd finger on the 1st fret E string. And pinky on the 2nd fret A string. B diminished. Simple as that. Yes, you can play that higher up the neck like I was doing. But it suffices to just play it back there at the easy open position of the ukulele. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Once you get that shape down, that's all your diminished chords pretty much. So it's a valuable shape. I won't necessarily provide chord diagrams because they already exist on the Midcoast Ukes website. All you got to do is go to chord charts, that menu item called chord charts at the top of the website. Look far, far down, keep scrolling, and beyond the chord charts, you're going to find chords by key. And those chords by key, that's where you can get all these important chords. So you'll find them all right there. Chords by key, it's called. You can download it as a PDF. You can download it as, I think, a .doc file, something like that. But however you download it, however you look at it, you should know as many chords as you can from that list. All right, so that takes care of the key of C. There was just one uncommon chord. Let's look at the key of G. G is 1, A minor is 2, B minor is 3. B minor might be one that's a little tricky for you if you're a beginner or just don't like bar chords. So let's look at it. Easiest way to do B minor is a small bar across 3 strings, and you just X out the G string. So don't even play the G string, just play the C, E, and A strings, and you get 2, 2, 2. Little B minor chord. If you want the big B minor chord, you add the 4th fret of the G string to your bar, and you get. Now I have some students that prefer to bar all the way with their B minor, even though you only need 3 strings barred. They like to bar all 4 and then put their 3rd finger down on the 4th fret of the G string, and that for them is easier. And I like that. That's a good way to do it. So you can do a littler bar that's kind of stingy and only covers the strings it needs to, or you can do a very generous bar that over bars, but for a lot of people it's easier to get a good grip on it by doing that. So either method is fine. So that's B minor. C is the 4 chord in the key of G. Everyone knows C. D is the 5 chord, or D7. You all probably know that. E minor is the 6th chord, but then F sharp diminished. That is the 7th chord. What is an F sharp diminished? It sounds kind of fancy just from its name, but it's just like B diminished. It's exactly like B diminished up a fret. Diminished chords are cool like that. They have the same shape. All of them have the same shape. Just got to move it around to different frets. So F sharp diminished is 2, 3, 2, 3. F sharp diminished. And you don't see it all that often, but when you do, you should know it. You should be prepared to learn that chord. Alright, key of D. We have D as the 1 chord. E minor is the 2 chord. F sharp minor is the 3. That's slightly uncommon. So let's look at that. Let's look at an F sharp minor. That's the kind of chord that you hear in a lot of Beatles songs, some Neil Young songs. Got to have that F sharp minor. So it's really nice. It's really easy. It's no harder than G7. You just take a G7 chord and move it over a set of strings, or move it up a set of strings, if you will. So that gives you 2, 1, 2, 0. Beautiful chord. The next chord, the 4 chord, is G. So using F sharp minor, if you want a little thing to practice, you know, to get good at F sharp minor, go G, F sharp minor, E minor, D. A little 4 chord progression in the key of D. Just a little folk ditty. You can strum if you're not into finger picking. Any way you slice it, it's a good chord to know. F sharp minor. Proceeding further, we have the 5 chord in the key of D, and that's an A chord or an A7. I bet you have no problem with that. The 6th chord is B minor. We already discussed B minor in the key of G. The key of D and the key of G have those in common. And then finally, C sharp diminished. Well, what is a C sharp diminished? It's an easy chord. Sounds complicated. C sharp diminished. It's not. It's just this. It's the easiest diminished chord in the world. It is 0, 1, 0, 1. You only need 2 fingers. No big deal. You can tell diminished chords are kind of dissonant, and they sound really good when you resolve them back to the 1 chord of the key. So the 7 chord going to the 1 chord. Tension, resolution, diminished chords. That's why we have them in music, for that tension. Alright, we took care of 3 keys. Let's move on. The key of A. A is the 1 chord, B minor is the 2 chord, C sharp minor is the 3 chord. You might not know C sharp minor. Let's check it out. If you know B minor, though, you know C sharp minor. Just take that B minor up a couple frets and voila, that turns it into a C sharp minor. So B minor is back here at the 2nd fret. C sharp minor is at the 4th fret, which gives us 6, 4, 4, 4. It's a bar chord, no two ways about it, but that's a C sharp minor. C sharp minor is a very common chord in a lot of styles of music, but I hear it quite a bit in rock music, I hear it quite a bit in folk music, hear it in Dylan, the Beatles, Creedence Clearwater, stuff like that. So C sharp minor is definitely a necessary chord. And then let's see, what else do we have in the key of A? After the 3 chord, we have the 4 chord D, we have the 5 chord E or E7, and I know a lot of you avoid E, as I do, but if you have to play it, it's 4, 4, 4, 2. Although there's lots of videos out there on the internet about easier ways to play E, and a couple of those are pretty decent. But when I have to do an E chord, I do it the traditional way, 4, 4, 4, 2. But when I don't have to do it, I do E7. Sometimes they're just interchangeable. Then in the key of A, the 6th chord is F sharp minor. We already talked about it. 2, 1, 2, 0. And finally, the 7 chord. The 7 chord in the key of A is going to be G sharp diminished. G sharp diminished sounds very complicated, but it's actually not. All you got to do is this. The same thing you did for B diminished. Why? Why is B diminished and why are B diminished and G sharp diminished the same fingering on the ukulele? We'll talk about that later. There's a little bit of music theory behind diminished chords. It's very interesting, it's very cool, but we're going to keep this short, so no theory today. But anyway, if you want to finger that G sharp diminished chord, which you need for some songs, it's 1 2 1 2. And there you have it. All right, let's flip on over to the other side of the keys, and that gives us the key of F. And the key of F has F as the 1 chord, G minor as the 2 chord, good old G minor like we have in Those Were the Days and lots of other songs. G minor is an essential chord. It is 0 2 3 1. So if you don't know G minor, do yourself a favor and learn it today. You're going to need it. Guarantee it. You're going to need it. Good way to practice G minor is just kind of go back and forth between D minor and G minor. Just make a little mini song out of it like that. All right, moving on from that, we have in the key of A, key of F, excuse me, A minor. I meant to say A, but A minor is the chord. And that's the 3 chord. You all know that. The 4 chord in the key of F is B flat, which is a much dreaded chord, but it is possible if you keep persisting and keep at it. 3 2 1 1, a little bar across the E and A strings there. If you absolutely can't do that, do the 3-note version, which is actually pretty okay. And that would be 3 2 1 X. Just do not play the A string. B flat. C, or C7, is the 5 chord in the key of F. D minor is the 6 chord. You probably know D minor, but just in case, it's 2 2 1 0. Gotta have it. Gotta have D minor. Very essential chord. And finally, the grand finale. For the 7 chord in the key of F, drum roll, E diminished. So E diminished is the 7 chord in our final key of F. And E diminished is fingered thusly. It's a real easy one. It's 0 1 0 1. Just like C sharp diminished was. It's the same notes as C sharp diminished. And again, the reason why, theoretically, I am going to explain sometime in the future, but definitely not today, because we're keeping this short. Alright, Midcoast Ukers, get out that chord chart. You're really going to need that, so I highly suggest you download and print out Chords by Key, the PDF file or JPEG or whatever else there is. It's a nice way to learn them. You see all 7 chords in the key of C, in the key of G, in the key of D, in the key of A. It's super cool, and it's a really nice resource. Alright, Midcoast Ukers, you take care, and happy chord practicing. Bye-bye.